Yeah, let's just start things off. Stephen, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to us?
Well, good morning. Thanks for having me. My name is Stephen Steffe. I am a veteran, over 2 decades in service to the country. I did 12 in the Army, and then I did 10 years working as high threat security protection for the State Department. Contracted through Blackwater back in the day. They changed their name to XE, to MVM, to Constellis. But it's all doing the high threat security protection actions. So after about 2 decades of doing that, my knees were shot. I had to step aside after my 5th knee surgery and started doing finance, mostly focusing here lately on the veteran community. Just because when I was a military guy, outside of, hey, make sure you're paying your bills, are going to be push-ups in the first sergeant's office, not a whole lot of financial advice coming from. So I'm trying to give to the community what I wish that I would have had when I was in service.
That's good because everyone hears those stories about privates, and once they get that guaranteed paycheck as they get out of basic, they end up buying things like fire trucks.
Yeah. Finance is huge.
Yeah.
One of my soldiers when I was in the 82nd, he literally his first week, he just got in process like that. Monday, that Saturday, he went and got himself, this is back in the 90s, I'm going to date myself here a little bit. He went and got himself a brand new Ford Thunderbird. And his paycheck was about $1,200 monthly, and he had an $800 car payment. So I was like, oh my gosh. I go, I got it while I just joined, so I got 4 or 5 years being in. I'll have the car paid off. Oh goodness! So I can get out and not have to worry about having to make a car payment. Well, the big mistake there was it was a Ford Thunderbird, so not
that won't last that long. No, I'm a Ford guy, and I will totally agree with you on that. Not gonna last.
I like Ford products, but just not the Thunderbird.
I agree completely. Well, yeah. So, would you say you have a specific program that is for veterans, or do you just tend to focus on specifically helping veterans? Is there like a difference, or you kind of help everybody focusing on veterans?
Yeah, I help everybody. So about 70% of my clients are military. There's another 30% out there that's not, and it's a lot of it is probably tied to, hey, can you talk to my sister? I think she could really use this. Or, hey, my brother is a veteran. I want you to speak with him also. So I don't really have a special program for military. I just go out of my way to try and help as much as I can. Now, I do a lot of, as far as like charity work here in the St. Louis area. I hand out clothes to the homeless on Veterans Day, on Memorial Day. I usually do something with one of the charities around here. So a big one I support here also is called the Valhalla March. So there's a store, it's a tactical store here in St. Charles, and the name of it is Tactical Shit. It's literally the name of it, Tactical Shit. What do they sell? Tactical shit. Like super catchy name. But we do a ruck march on Armed Forces Day, raising donations. I think back before COVID, we had about 300, 400 veterans out walking right down our main highway, I-70, for a couple miles. So we had the police department out there. We had the fire department. We're shutting down roads and hanging flags and signs and stuff. So I do a lot in the veteran community. I just don't have a special program for it.
All right.
Yeah. And so if anybody listening like would want to get, more information or just like wanted to connect with you, what would be the best way that they could kind of get more info about either Northwestern or just, or even just get in contact with you?
Yeah. The easiest way, I use all forms of older social media. So you're not going to find me on TikTok. I am almost 50. So LinkedIn, Facebook is a good way to get hold of me. Through the Northwestern Mutual website, you can type my name into just to the northwesternmutual.com, and it will pull my name up as well. And then I'm always open to phone calls and text messages. So
Awesome. What would you say your your mission statement or overall goal is? And that could be for non-veteran too, but definitely veteran. I feel like you kind of touched on it, but if you want to focus on your exact kind of motivation.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, if we're going to be honest, my motivation is I want to be rich. I think we all do, right? But in that area, in that space that I'm currently working in, and I've really found a calling and a niche that I like, as far as being able to help people put together a full financial plan. I am definitely a firm believer that everybody needs a financial plan. Because it's just a way to help analyze what your priorities are. I'll talk with a veteran and talk about their values, and they might say, well, God, family, country, those are my three highest priorities. But then when we take a look at their finances, well, it's Walmart, McDonald's, and Burger King are the three highest financial priorities. So, okay, all right, let's see if we can get those two to align properly, all right, so that we can help focus on what we actually want to have. So, and then from there, there's different phases. So as far as what I can do as a financial advisor, I help do a lot of like educating on mortgages, like what the home buying experience looks like, how to get in touch with realtors, how to fix your credit. So I do some credit counseling as well, talking about some of the defensive plan that somebody might have for their finances. So looking at life insurance, disability insurance, annuities, something along those lines. And then the exciting stuff is the wealth accumulation, where I can help people figure out what kind of good stocks to get into, or how to set up their own 401k, or just make sure that everything is set up properly.
So you said something really good that I think some people overlook part of what you said, and you said that everyone needs a financial plan. That's absolutely true. And what people don't understand is even if you have millions of dollars or consistently or especially inconsistently make millions of dollars, you still need a financial plan. And so I'm glad you mentioned that, because some people think, well, I'm doing okay. But it's like things can get out of hand if you let's say you get a raise, and so you just kind of keep on doing what you're doing. So
Yeah.
absolutely. So everyone listening, this is still something relevant no matter how much you make or what your situation is. So I'm glad you said that.
Now, whenever I speak with some of my higher net worth clients, some of the conversations that we're having is tax mitigation, wealth distribution, intergenerational wealth accumulation. So there's a lot of things that I could do on the higher end also to help us pay less taxes, or to help ensure that what you want to have happen once you're not here no more, that your estate planning is put together properly, so that what's going to happen is what you wanted to happen when you were here. Because it's not like we can go argue with somebody once we're gone to make sure that no, Susie gets it, not Jimmy. So make sure that everything's set up before we're not able to make any decisions. But I think that's a good baseline for most everybody.
That's great. And so for like people that are just starting out, or like they have like no plan, no experience, what advice would you give to somebody that is just starting out, maybe like a budgeting plan or tracking their spending, something along those lines?
Most of the time where I'm going to start, especially with somebody that's just looking for an easy budget, right? Some way that can help me get a hold of what I'm doing, get a hold of what's going on in my world, and be able to. I look at it more as like a financial analysis versus, or cash flow analysis versus like a budget, because nobody likes the word budget. It's like the word diet, right? It means that I'm not going to be able to do something. It's restrictive of some sort. But the ideal is not to restrict your finances, but to help, again, align those priorities so that McDonald's isn't where most of your money is going. Versus I want to have charity with the church. I'd like to get some tax exempt status from any of the donations I do. Or, I'd like to look at trying to lower my adjusted gross income. So as far back to your initial question there, Nick, what's some good advice? Getting a good handle of where your finances is going. I like to look at, when I'm talking with my clients, if we have, and we'll just use a round, easy number to work off of, $1,000 a month coming And now that's after tax. That's actually cash that we got in our hand or it gets deposited into the bank account. I usually recommend about 60% of your income coming in going towards all of your fixed expenses. So, house, car, gas, insurance, any of the stuff that doesn't really change. That's your lifestyle expenses. So in this case, it would be $600. It would also include your home expense and your car expenses. Then that way, that frees up another 40%. And we can start being intentional with the 20% that we have that we could put into savings. And it's always good for especially somebody that is under 40 years old to start looking at trying to get to a point where you can start saving 20% of the income that you're making that's coming in. And if we're doing that, then now we know that we're saving for our future, some kind of future growth, whether it's saving or investing. But then also that frees up 20% that we can have on guilt-free spending, our fun money, right? So you can go on date nights or go hang with the guys or the girls and be able to still enjoy life, but knowing that you're not overstretching yourself. One of the hardest things to get out of whenever I talk to some new clients is I just feel like I'm living paycheck to paycheck. I just can't get ahead because that means every penny that you got is going out somewhere. So now we have to really figure out how to restructure, how to rebalance your bills and possibly fix some credit so we can get better interest rates and just look at strategies to help get somebody out of the hole. That usually takes the longest of any of the initial problems that I get into. Credit's not as hard to fix as we have no money per month, but we can sit down and put together a plan on how to make that happen. I don't have a magic wand, so I can't just say, here you go, here's $10,000, pay all your bills. It's going to be work, but I like to have a partnership so that we can come back and check in and see how things are going. When we do get that pay raise, we have an idea what we're going to do with it. So I was a little bit long-winded there, Nick, but did that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a good start, and it will definitely help people that just don't, it's easy to feel overwhelmed, especially with finances,
Yeah, yes.
and also like, I know, cause you and I have met before, and I think the biggest thing that I hadn't really focused on was defense. So maybe if you'd want to touch a little bit on that, like I was more about investing and, but not thinking of, like the disability, what happens if you can't, work on the job, or because I'm sure we've got quite a few listeners that do more dangerous jobs that, maybe that'd be something.
Yeah. So yeah, everybody always wants to talk about the wealth accumulation. That's the sexy, right? Getting into the stock market and trying to invest and see your money grow. And it's a roller coaster because, one day the stock market's up, the next one, the stock market's down. And it just becomes like, oh my gosh, it's such a roller coaster. That's the exciting stuff. Whether you're, amped up about it or you're mad that the stock market went down, it's still very feeling oriented, right? Seeing what's going on with your money. But yeah, more to your point, the defensive plan is not as fun to talk about, but it's just as important. So first part of the defense I usually like to look at is life insurance. Now, there's no wrong amount of life insurance for somebody to have. I do believe everybody should have enough life insurance that they can pay all their bills once they're gone and lay themselves to rest. With veterans, we get that second part done, but we still don't want to be a burden on any of our family members or friends. So at least some life insurance to help take care of that. As far as the disability insurance, when we're talking about disability, there is two totally different kinds of disability. One is short-term disability and the other is long-term disability. Both of them are designed that should something happen to you outside of work. So you get into a car accident, you come down with the big C word, cancer, or fall off the roof hanging up Christmas lights, right? Whatever could happen to you outside of work that could keep you from going back to work. Well, there's going to be a disruption in your income if you're not able to work for most people. But we do have insurance out there that can help keep 100% of your insurance coming in. Even if you became permanently disabled for the rest of your life, you could keep a paycheck rolling in, keep 100% of your income coming in for the next 40, 50 years, whatever your time horizon is, to get you to retirement. So just because we're disabled veterans doesn't mean that we have to just live off of whatever the VA rating gave us. we can apply for additional income on top of that, so that we can help protect and make sure your family's going to have cash coming in, which will keep the house over your head and the lights on, and keep things running smoothly, even if you're not able to work. So defensive plan's not as fun, but it's definitely just as important. So we all, especially veterans, we like to think we're invincible, right? I could run through a brick wall, I swear. Oh, yeah, now I'm almost 50. That brick wall is not moving now. It's me that takes the beat.
All right. Do you have any good success stories? And I'm sure there's plenty of them, but I get part of that is coming back to you, telling you about them, or maybe someone had greater odds they faced in terms of getting their finances in order than your typical person does.
So a good story, a good finance story. I met with a young soldier that just got out of service. So I literally was, my first conversation with him was the day before his ETS day. So he was already on terminal leave, and he was like, yeah, no, officially tomorrow I'm out of service. And we sat down and we had a basic conversation, looking at areas that I'm well connected here in St. Louis. So I do like to help a lot of my clients find positions if there's anything available. But we were sitting down and starting to talk, and we started to put together a plan. We came back next week, and he had told me that his girlfriend, now fiance, is pregnant. So, well, holy cow. What's that? We weren't even talking. You said you weren't going to have kids for the next 3 to 5 years. I was like, okay, all right, we've got a lot of stuff. So in a very short amount of time, within 2 months from the day that I first talked to him, I talked to him about how we get his credit fixed enough that he could have a good enough credit score. It was smaller things, paying down some credit cards. Got a good enough credit score that we were able to apply for a house. I gave him a mortgage 101 conversation, so he understands what the home buying experience looks like. And then from there, we actually got him into a home and got him set up so that now he's working. He had insurance, life insurance, because we lose our SGLI whenever we get out. So we got life insurance back on him. He's now working with a family. And literally when I met him, he was like, I don't really have any need to talk to you. And then I came back and was like, hey, this is fantastic. So he went from not knowing very little, I should say, about finance to now he is an established family man, literally in the span of, say, 3 months. So I would call that probably a pretty good success story.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a good one.
Yeah, and their baby is due here real soon. I got a calendar reminder for me to check out, to send them a text to see when how's the baby doing, if it's popped out or not yet. So
Well, good. Congratulations to them.
Yeah.
And if you want, give him our information. We may have more. He obviously has talked to you, so he won't need to listen to this episode maybe, but you may find interest in other stuff we've got.
Yeah.
I got another question I have is, so a point that people make that I think is very good is you can only budget so much in terms of what would your strategy be if someone came to you and said, I only make X amount, we'll say $500, but their expenses for whatever reason are $800. What would be an approach that you would see to take to help them, one, kind of have their equation balance back out, and then some advice to help them continue on that road?
Yeah, and that's it's kind of a question that I hear a lot. Kind of you're sitting at a bar, hey, I'm a financial advisor. Hey, great, what can you do to help me? Kind of a thing, right? And everybody's situation is unique to them. So unfortunately, there's not an easy button where you just, okay, hey, this plan will work for you. I have a plan. You probably have a plan. Nick has a plan. And all three of them are completely different. So there's not a wand that I can wave. It's sitting down and figuring out if there's any areas that I can be of assistance in. I do work in the finance area, so I'm well connected with a lot of loan officers, whether they're auto or home or anything in financing world. I actually used to be a mortgage loan officer when I first got into finance. That actually stemmed from back in 2008 when the mortgage industry was almost collapsing the country. So I thought that would be the best place for me to be able to make an impact. But then I found that being a financial advisor, I could still do that, but then I can also help with other things as well. But literally just sitting down and going over finance, going over the budget, right? Just line by line, see if there's small changes we can make to different parts of the budget to see, can we free up some money? Can we do something like a debt snowball calculator to help us figure out what kind of timeline we could have to get paid off? And that's something else that I do too, is, paying bills down sucks. It takes a long time. It's hard to get excited about paying down $10,000 of credit card bills. So, but if we can figure out a tool that can help us stay motivated, if we can see exactly how much longer we got to go, if we're putting X amount of dollars towards it, it should be paid off by June or whenever. So then it makes it a little easier because it's not just, and this is a bill that's just never going to go away. I'm just going to pay the minimum and just forget about it. Well, unfortunately, it doesn't really work. So really trying to figure out if we could fix some credit, get better interest rates, refinance, leverage some other debt. Leverage some other assets to maybe help us get control of our current debt and just seeing what the whole picture is. So, definitely worth conversation if you are paycheck to paycheck to reach out and talk. I talk to any veteran for free. So anytime somebody sits down with me, I'll go over and give them my 100% undivided attention, just like they're a normal, regular, full-blown client. Because the goal there being is I want to front load my time with my community so they have a good sense of understanding of who I am. So that way, whenever we do finally get to a point where we can start moving some money forward, building their wealth up, that hopefully I'll be the one that they use.
Like, so say any veteran, wanted to get started, like obviously you probably don't want to throw out a whole bunch of other different options, but like say a veteran's listening right now, they don't feel comfortable reaching out to you, or just in general they don't know where to start. Is there anywhere else they could kind of go, or like any advice you'd give to somebody like that just to get started?
Yeah, so I would go with some of the bigger finance companies. So Northwestern Mutual is a $300 billion company with zero debt on the books. They're a Fortune 100 company. Mass Mutual is another insurance-based financial planning company, really good. Ed Jones, sometimes I've heard some bad stories from them, but if you can actually talk to one of the licensed planners, Ed Jones is all about just trying to get you into some kind of a stock market account, because that's all they are. They manage stocks and funds.
Okay.
But if you can actually get a hold of one of the planners there, then they'll actually talk to you more about than just, hey, give me $100 and I'll turn it into 10,000. If maybe talk with your local bank wherever you do your banking. There's going to be personal bankers there that would at least give you some kind of an idea of where to start. Okay. Most of the big banks have some kind of advisor with them. U.S. Bank generally has a financial advisor inside of their office, and Bank of America. So advisors going to be worth it, even if they're going to charge you a little bit. Some people do charge by the hour, but I would still even say that it's going to be worth it. A financial advisor, we all want to be richer. That's why anybody listening to this podcast is probably wanting to know some secret about how to get rich. Talk with an advisor, like an actual family planning, financial planning advisor.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Then you can see the first steps and, start getting out of wherever you're at.
Yeah. And again, it's because there's just so many different things when we're talking about the financial realm, right? If we're talking about swimming, well, we're talking about water in a pool, and that's it, right? And people jump in it, they go swim. But when you're talking about finance, well, there's so many, right? Planning for college for the kids. I need to pay down my student loans. I need to fix my credit, buy a house, buy a car. Sometime I want to retire. Susie's going to need a car, and Jimmy's going to want to go to college when he gets grown up. And so there's so many different areas. It's hard to say, hey, you should focus on this. The only thing that I would say, like easily right out of the gate, for most people, a good cash flow analysis or a good monthly budget and sticking to it, and then teach yourself, train yourself to follow your own rules that you're putting in place for yourself. A lot of times that's hard. Being able to, well, I really want to go, and I'm picking on McDonald's, but it could be insert anything here. Like, I know I'm supposed to save $20 this week, but man, I'm hungry and McDonald's got the sale. So I'm going to go ahead and go spend $5 there. And I'm still going to have 15. So it's okay. I'm still saving. It's all right. It's all right if I cut in that $5. But if you set this aside for yourself, and I'm trying to teach my 12-year-old son this stuff right now, if you allocate a certain amount of money, then you have to be disciplined, because you're the only one that's going to hold yourself accountable. So if you know that you want to go on a trip this summer, so you need to save up $1,000 or $2,000, you're the only one that's going to save that for you. So putting some rules in place for yourself, some guidelines, if you will, and then sticking to them, and understanding your finance, your budget is probably the best place for anybody to start. Now, once you get a hold of that and you got understanding, well, then it branches off many directions from there.
That's great advice. Yeah. Take it sounds just kind of like taking responsibility for, like you said, you're the only one that's going to do it.
Yeah. I don't have access to your dollar that's in your pocket. You're the only one that can pull it out of your pocket and go spend it at Starbucks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we're only going to make a finite amount of money before we pass away. And if you believe in the old Viking, religions, your destiny is already predetermined. So you are somewhere, the fate, if you will, if you believe in that, your fate is already decided you're going to make some number. We'll say $1 million or $3 million before we pass away. Now, if that's the amount of money we have, we can only spend that money once. We can either spend it on our current lifestyle. We could spend it on intergenerational wealth, leaving it to someone, but we can't make more than what we're already going to make. So the point there being, how can you be intentional with the money that you want to make? So whenever we sit down and we think, and we close our eyes when I'm 50, 60, 70 years old, what kind of life do I want to live? Generally, we're going to want to live a better life in retirement than we are when we're working, because we have more time to enjoy life. That's when, a lot of retirees will go on and do their vacations, and they go do their family trips, and they take everybody on a cruise, because now they have the time. And if we get the proper planning, you have the money also. So now you can not just enjoy that time, but you can spend it however you want. You can spend it being a double pun, being with spending your money or spending your time.
We thank you for listening, and we hope you got something helpful out of this.
Right now, the best way to support us is to simply spread the word. If you know a fellow veteran who could use some resources to elevate their life, send them our way.
Until next time, remember to check your 0s, 5s, 10s, and 25s.